Welcome to What Does It Mean to Be a Clairsentient? So if anybody has any experiences or they just have a question, please feel free to write a comment, and I promise you, if I don't get to them, the questions during the live stream, I do go back and answer all my questions in the comments afterwards. So how many of you consider yourself a clairsentient, and do you know what being clairsentient entails?
Does that mean that I smell a certain way?
That's my husband. He's going to be cooking in the background, so and then we'll find out what's for dinner later. Shout outs to Jean Matthews McHatton, Eden Bourdreau, Susan Ryan, Kelly Krieger, Jeff Talon, and Carol Hall. Nice to see you. Thanks for joining me this evening. Shout out to Ricky Elkins, Ginger Mitchell, Don Reynolds. Hey Jeff, yes, we're doing great this evening here in Lexington, Kentucky. Hi to Kathy Harden. And David Ryle, shout out to you. Thanks for joining me this evening. So Carol Hall says clairsentient is a feeling. Carol, you're going to learn that being a clairsentient is so much more than just a feeling, but that is part of it. Hi to Jesse Thorpe. Special shout out to you. And so Ricky says, yes, you can catch this, Ricky, later on YouTube if you want to go back and watch it. And this is a really important episode because we're going to go into a special request that I had on how to manage being an empath with natural disasters. Hi to Don Reynolds. And yes, Jeff, you're going to hear a cat in the background. That's my little, she's almost 18 years old. And she loves food. So if David's in the kitchen cooking, she's going to be right there meowing along with him. Hi to Ashley Nanette and Lorraine Tracy Gratton. So nice to see you guys tonight. And a special shout out to Tim Rogers. Hey, Tim, thanks for joining. So let's go over, hey, Chantel, thanks for joining us tonight. Let's go over what being a clairsentient is. Hey, Yasmin Jadoon. A clairsentient consists of 3 different things. And yes, I will shout out to Owen Riles. Nice to have you with us, Owen and David. And hey to Doris McQueen. Thanks for joining tonight. So clairsentient is so much more than just being an empath or having a feeling about something. Clairsentient only means it's clear sensing, and that works off of 3 different things, actually. That is sensing or feeling, knowing, and the act of touch. So clairsentients can be empaths, knowers, and this is a difficult term to use, psychometrics. Psychometrics, and they've also been called touch nulls, can touch an item or feel of the item and get information off of it. So those are psychometrics. Now, so you may be an empath, you may be a knower, or you may be a psychometric. And most people identify with being an empath. So the feeling part of it, or the empath part of it, most empaths can be classified in these particular definitions. It's a definition of a person who's oversensitive. They can be classified as being oversensitive or touchy. Other people will affect your mood. When a person comes in and they're in a bad mood, it does affect you, and it can alter your mood if you're an empath. What's on TV affects you. You can be watching a show that's really emotional or really tragic and pick up the emotion off of that show, and it really affects you. Empaths can be very overwhelmed in crowds, and empaths can be susceptible to sudden depression or anxiety without a direct cause. And that's how you are aware that you could be an empath, because there's no etiology behind the sudden change in emotion. So I see a lot of other people joining us right here. Let's do a little bit more shout outs right now. Hey to one of my special friends, Melissa Begley and Miss Cleo. Kisses to you guys. Liz and Jennifer, Marion and Misty Dones English. Thanks for joining. Lori and Cody. Hey to Susan, Laura, and let's see, Wesley McDonald. Nice to see you this evening. Hey, Lolly. Thanks for joining. Marie Armstrong and her clan it's out near Lancaster, Marie lives in. Anessa, and hey to Pam Branson. Thanks for joining me this evening. So other things that empaths classically have happened to them is the sudden depression or anxiety without a direct cause. Empaths can be classified as people who fix things. So you're going to see that a lot of people will go to empaths with their problems. They're going to divulge a lot of personal things that the other person doesn't necessarily know. Thanks for the hearts and kisses back to you guys. So empaths will have complete strangers come up to them and start telling them their whole life history and all of their problems, because that other person senses that empath is a fixer. So a lot of empaths are seen as fixers. So let's go over, and please feel free to ask any questions as we go through this material. And at the end of the material, I'm going to go over a special, that special request on how to manage during natural disasters. So the three parts of being the empath is the knower, or being a clairsentient, is the knower, the empath, and the psychometric. So the first part, which is the knower, or you're going to hear the phrase, I don't know how I got this information, but I just know that it's right. Okay, that's being a clairsentient. So in a knower, the area that's activated or in working order is the crown chakra up here. So the crown chakra is what pulls this information in that says, I don't know how I know this, but I know this to be true. So that's the crown chakra. Now in a empath or a feeler, the solar plexus right here, right down here in the stomach area, is the area of activity, and that's the gut feeling. Okay, that's, I feel this. And that's what's so difficult for an empath is feeling is a very physical thing to undergo. It's different than knowing. It's more physical. So that's what can be extremely hard for an empath to deal with. But the solar plexus is the area of activity for a person who is an empath. Now, the psychometric, and this is what's interesting, the psychometric's area or center of activity is the heart chakra. And it's the heart chakra because it's on the same level as the hands. And the hands are very instrumental for a psychometric. Psychometrics, when they were kids, always picked stuff up in the grocery store and were feeling of things, and you always heard from your mother or your father, whoever took you to the grocery, put that down, don't pick that up, put that back on the shelf. And when you go into stores, you're going to find that you're constantly having to pick stuff off the shelf and feel of it. That's a classical sign of a psychometric. But it's in the level of the heart chakra because that's on the same level of the arms and the hands of the sensing unit. So let's go over, let me check and make sure there are no questions here. Hey to Kelly Simpson, Betty Jo, hey Edie, and let's see if there's any questions on here. Yes, it does happen so much, Jean. Amanda and Tracy and Connie Brock Powell, thanks for joining me this evening. Yes, thank you, Tracy. I appreciate that. So Doris McQueen thinks she's an empath, and I believe she probably is. We've had enough conversations here that she probably is an empath. Shout out to Chastity Henderson and Teresa Back. Christy Glass, hey, and Gary. Laura Walters has a question. What if you do both? Because she does get stuff that she just knows, but then she gets things through the feeling. That's one thing, Laura, that I suggest is that you use both of your abilities when you're dealing with things, because to be a clairsentient, a true clairsentient, you're going to have all three abilities. You're going to be a psychometric, you're going to be a knower, and you're going to be an empath. But people get kind of used to only using one ability, and that's when they run into trouble. Like being the empath, when you get too used to using that feeling to sense everything around you, that's when you get into trouble, because too much information is coming through that one center. So I always suggest that people who are clairsentients split that ability up and kind of rotate between those three abilities so that one area or one chakra doesn't get overloaded with too much information. Because when that one chakra gets overloaded with too much information, that's when you start to see some disorders, physical disorders that could happen. Hey to Donna and Stacy and Charlotte. And Charlotte Northcutt has a question. Anyone else having trouble watching this? It's breaking up for her. Oh, I thought that was a question. No, my feed kind of looks okay, but you guys shout out and let me know if your feeds are all right. Brenda Jo, hey Brenda Jo, and Lolly says she's not having any trouble watching where she's at. So Linda Karen McLeod has joined. Brenda Jo says she can't see or hear anything either. Well, it could be this Mercury retrograde. And hey to Lana Crawford. So Jean has a question. How do you learn to split the energy? So when you, Jean, are evaluating things, instead of saying, how do I feel about this, switch the focus to the other chakra and say, what do I know about it? Or what can I touch with this? So it becomes almost like an automated thing to feel. So what that means, Jean, is you're going to have to switch your focus from your solar plexus to the crown chakra and try to sense for one day consciously, what do I know about things instead of what do I feel? So Marie says she uses all three because sometimes she just has to touch things to get that sensation off of it. And the touch sensation really does give you a lot of information. So Laura says, thank you, that explains a lot for me. Awesome, Laura. Stacy Williams, thanks for joining, and she says she can hear and see fine. So Kathy Harden, hey, she says all is good here. Yes, David is cooking, and we'll ask him later what he's up to. Hey, Michael Allen. So Jennifer Hickerson has a question. How do you decide not to use these abilities? I know occasionally, but feel frequently. I can't control when they happen and when they don't. We're going to go into that in another episode. And if you want to know before that, Jennifer, I will post a link to my online course in Clairsentient ability. And what we're going to go into in that course is how to use blocks and shields, how to relocate yourself. There's all kinds of different techniques that we use to control this ability. Hey, Louise. And Marie Armstrong says, sometimes other people's feelings are overwhelming. Yes, they are. And it's why it's so important for an empath to use blocks and shields and relocation. And we will go into that at a later date. So, hey to Beth and Morgan. Nice to see you guys on here, and thanks for joining me. But I want to go over a couple things before we run out of time this evening. The first thing is how to test your clairsentient ability, and then we're going to go over this special request for the natural disasters and how to deal with that. So, when you are testing your clairsentient ability, the first thing that you're going to do is decide which ability that you're going to use, be it touch, be it knowing, or be it feeling, okay? Now, remember, the psychometrics or the touch clairsentient uses the heart chakra to sense with. The knower uses the crown chakra to sense with. And the empath or feeler uses the solar plexus to sense with. So what you're going to do first is to open that chakra, or I call them, these are gateways, energetic gateways into the body. So the first thing you're going to do is do a prayer of protection before you open this gateway. The prayer of protection can be anything that means a lot to you, but it needs to be directed in a protective way. So you're going to say this prayer of protection before you open whichever gateway that you're working with. So let's say we're going to use the empathic gateway. You would do your prayer of protection and then open the solar plexus gateway to sense or receive information. Now, in a normal person, the area of the solar plexus is the energy is projected outwards. It's the seat of the will and the power. And that's normally projected out. But in a clairsentient, the clairsentient reverses the flow of energy and pulls everything in through the solar plexus to see how they feel about it. How do we feel about this room? How do we feel about the temperature? How do we feel about the music? How do we feel about the smell? How do we feel about the general ambience of the room? So we're reversing the flow to make it receptive when we're sensing everything. And that's part of the problem that empaths get into, is we're pulling too much information into the solar plexus and we're not getting that information back out. So empaths classically have GI problems or digestive issues simply because there's an oversaturation of the energy in that area. So in my course, I go into how to purge that energy back out and how to cleanse that area of the excess of information. So you're going to do your prayer of protection and you're going to open this area up to reception and pull the information in through that area of feeling. Now, when you do this, you're going to want to have like a cup of water, a cup of cold water with you, because we're dealing with emotions and feelings. So when they become overwhelming, you're going to want to take a small sip of the water just to not be too overwhelmed by all the emotions that are happening. So let me go into a quick question before we go through the other steps of this. So Jennifer Hickerson has a question. She says she had an overwhelming event at work the other day and had to leave the unit and try to shake it off. Yes, disconnecting, and that's actually a technique, the relocation. Relocate yourself away from the area so that you're breaking that emotional connection. Hey to Mindy Soleil and Arthea, nice to see you and thanks for joining us tonight. So have that cup of water with you when you're doing this exercise and you get too overwhelmed with emotions. Just take a quick sip of that cool water, and that will break that emotional connection. Now, there's one of two things that you can do, and you want to do this with a partner because they're going to be the ones that evaluate the information that you get. So one thing is you can put 3 items in a paper bag. Make one of the items belong to the person who's helping you. So let's say the person who's helping you is one of your best friends, but you don't need to know the items that go in there. So it can't be an item that you've seen on that person before. So have them put in a bag 2 items that are unrelated to them and 1 item that is related to them, like a watch or a piece of jewelry that's theirs. And make it something that you haven't seen or you don't know about. So what you would do is place those items in a paper bag, and they're going to tell you, please pick out by feeling the item that belongs to me and what information that you derive from that item. So then the empath will put their hand in the bag and feel without looking the items that are in the bag. You're going to pick the item that belongs to them strictly on feeling, and then you're going to write down the sensations or the feelings that you derive from that item. Now, after you do that, the person who's helping you is going to evaluate what you picked and the sensations that you got off of the item. Okay, and then you're going to judge yourself on how you did. Now, another way to do it would be to have someone else place in the bag several items of different colors that are large and kind of nondescript or round, square, whatever, like red, green, and blue. And then they're going to ask you pick out the blue one. And by feeling alone, you're going to do that and evaluate your results. So that's 2 ways you can test your ability, practice your ability, improve your ability. Now, always, after you get done with this exercise, after you get done with evaluating, please close that gateway. Never forget to close that gateway. You do not want to leave that chakra open, and seal that with the protective prayer after you get done. Another way that you can do that without the paper bag is by putting a screen in between you and another party, and have this other person project an emotion to you, like anger, frustration, despair, something like a very strong emotion. And then you as the receiver are sitting on the other side of the screen, and you're jotting down on your pad and paper what you are receiving or what feelings you're receiving from that other person. And one thing I discovered in doing classes with people on their basic abilities was they always thought that they were going to do really bad at this. But really, in evaluating the groups of students that I've had, they did extremely well. And 90% of the students really got good results, or they did much better than they thought they were going to do. So let me page down through here and make sure that there's no questions. Hey to Sarah Lee and Sharon Wilder. Mike Hayes, thanks for joining. And Sheila Sunley, thanks for joining too. And Elisa. Hey to Elisa, Gwen, Rebecca, and Jessica. So, and yes, there are quite a few people that are having their screens freeze right now. Don't worry. We'll be loading this up on YouTube this week, and you can watch it there. And any of the past episodes you can watch as well. Hey to Kim Gardenworks and Michael McCatton. Thanks for joining me this evening. If you like these episodes, please hit that share button now and share this with your friends. I do appreciate every single share that people do on my page for the astrological forecasts and Fun Fridays. Thank you so much for sharing. I do appreciate it. And a special shout out to you guys. Thank you so much. Now, this section, before we end, is for a special person who asked that this be delivered, and I did come up with something really, really good for you guys for this. Now, a lot of empaths are affected by things that go on TV. The empathic connection with the TV is so strong. And so when we see natural disasters or tragedies that happen, the empath automatically connects with that. And that can be a tough thing to manage, especially right now with Hurricane Harvey. So that's kind of one of the things that people are having trouble with. So what happens during a national or a natural disaster is the human emotional devastation is at a high. And what that does is it projects outward. And remember, the empath is in a receptive state. So what happens is the emotional devastation supersedes the blocks and the shields that the empath normally uses to protect themselves from too much emotion. And so that can be very, very difficult because you're trying to use your blocks and shields, but they're not working. But it's because of the amount of emotional energy that is projected out, and an empath is in that receptive state. So what you want to do first off is not, and an empath will do this, they will obsessively watch the news to find out what's happened next. You have to force yourself not to obsessively watch. Limit your time that you allow yourself on social media or on the TV if you know that there's a natural disaster happening. Okay, now let's go back to our basic teaching when we were talking about how an empath reverses the normal flow of energy in the solar plexus to a receptive or drawing in of energy here. So during times of natural disaster, the empath has to effectively reverse the flow of energy in the solar plexus outward to a projective state. But that's not normal for an empath. So how are we going to do that? Good question, and I have the answer for you. The first thing that you're going to do is to select a target. And let's just take Hurricane Harvey for an example. There are several communities that are more devastated than others. So what I want you to do is to pick out a particular community to focus on, like Rockport, Corpus Christi, Houston, those ones that are right on the edge that have felt the most devastation. Now, to project this energy outward, you're going to use gamma wave meditation. Gamma wave meditation is the fastest, most energetic brain wave that we can produce. It's anywhere from 25 to 100 hertz, and the average being 40 hertz for the production of gamma waves. Now, this is not the same as gamma rays, which are X-rays. This is gamma wave. It's a brain wave. And the average is being 40 hertz. Now, in the comment section, when I finish, I will put a link to a gamma wave meditation that you can use. These are binaural beats, so you have to use earbuds when you listen. But what this does is it projects energy outward to the universe. It's associated with feelings of blessings, elated feelings. It's a projective feeling of I can do anything. This has been studied by many, many people in monks and nuns. And when they found that the monks and nuns had the emotion of compassion, their brain waves immediately elevated to gamma and were projective. So this is what I want you to do, is to pick out one of those communities and do a gamma wave meditation. Project that energy out to that community and send compassion and healing. So this is also, let me tell you a few more things about gamma waves before we end for the evening. If you practice gamma waves, it increases your memory recall, it increases your sensory perception, it increases your focus, it increases your process of information, and it also increases a calm feeling and a feeling of peace. And that's what you're projecting to these areas that need that energy so much. Now, the theory that I'm giving you here is that if you project all this out with gamma wave, you're reversing the flow of energy and you're not in a receptive state. So you're not receiving the devastation, you're not receiving those negative emotions and the trauma and the despair that goes with that, but you're being beneficial to those communities that need it. So let me know in the comments what you think about that idea, and I hope that you guys can take that and use it, and it will make you more comfortable during these periods of upheaval. So Christy has a question. Once you test yourself, will practice make the ability stronger? Yes, absolutely. It's like working out at the gym. It's no different. The first time you go to the gym, it's really hard to lift the weights. But as you practice and you get better, you're able to lift more weights and you're able to do more. And it's actually going to activate your other latent abilities that you have. So hey to Jen Pullins and Jessica McKinney. Thanks, Tasha, for joining us. And Marie says that could explain why I don't like the news. Yes, Marie, you're probably an empath and it does affect you. Now, if you're just watching the regular news, you can use your blocks and your shields. But for a big, huge, devastating thing like a hurricane or other natural disaster, you're going to want to use those gamma wave meditations and see how they work for you. And then let me know in the comments or just send me a message on Facebook and let me know what you thought about that. So hey to Carrie, Zinda, and Leslie, Autumn, and Cheryl Dalton. Thanks for joining me tonight. And Debbie Lemming and Melissa Ferguson Isaacs. Thanks for joining me. I'm going to leave all the links in the comment section. Please share this with your friends. I look forward to seeing you on Monday nights. I'm going to end for now, but we got to find out what's for dinner, David.
Tonight we're going to go with the German heritage, and we're going to have some sausage and kraut cooked together with mashed potatoes and some buttered rye bread.
Oh, God. Sounds good. Thank you, dear. Anyway, don't worry about if your feed froze and you can't get the rest of this broadcast. I'm going to leave a link to my YouTube channel. And for those of you on Instagram and Periscope, just go to YouTube and type in Kathryn Kauffman, and you'll see my channel. There's a special playlist that says Facebook Live on Monday night, and you can go back and watch any episode you want. And this episode will be loaded this week on YouTube. So, kisses from Kentucky, and I will see you next Monday night for another Monday Night Live in Lexington. And we're going to go into more of this clairsentient stuff. So if you have any friends that think that they might be clairsentient or you think might benefit from the information, share this with them and tell them we're going to have episode 2 next Monday night. So I will see you guys later.